Just like regular crime, most cybercrime is profit-driven. That is why cybercrime has also become increasingly dependent on the underground economy. When talking about the underground economy, we refer to darknet markets or secure messaging services such as Telegram. Here, researchers have found an increase in the commoditization of cybercrime. Criminal entrepreneurs sell capabilities, services and resources off the shelf. These components can be bought and combined to kickstart new criminal business models. Suppliers of these capabilities, services and resources enable other criminals to abuse the ecosystem without the need to specialize in technical know-how themselves. You only have to know what to buy. This we call cybercrime as a service. With their own seed capital, criminal entrepreneurs can purchase individual resources or capabilities quite easily, like the a la carte menu in your favorite restaurant. Browse dark web markets and you will find many options to choose from. This development has lowered entry barriers for aspiring criminals, which could lead potentially to further growth in cybercrime. The emergence of underground marketplaces has allowed individual actors to specialize in particular capabilities, services, or resources without the need to self-organize the entire value chain. We consider this value chain as the full set of business activities necessary to generate criminal profits. We can look at this from an entrepreneurial point of view. To do so, we take this value chain that describes the set of cybercriminal resources you need to be successful. This shows what capabilities, services, and resources criminals need in their business model. Different types of cybercrime, for example, financial fraud versus ransomware, need somewhat different components within their respective value chains. Even though they can differentiate for various forms of cybercrime, we see that all business models relate to four main resources. First, development. For example, this can be the development of malware or a website as a main resource to build cybercrime on. Second, this malware must be distributed through certain channels to reach potential victims. After this, a takeover is usually required, sometimes with the help of customer service, contacting the victim to make profit. Finally, cash out relates to the last but crucial step of making sure the profit ends up in your hands. Specialized criminals have the capability to offer services or resources fulfilling these components of the value chain. The emergence of underground marketplaces has allowed individual actors to specialize in particular capabilities, services, or resources without supplying the entire value chain. In practice, we see that some components in the value chain generate little transaction volumes, while cash out is the most profitable to sell, signaling a clear demand for these services in the underground economy. Next to the business opportunities within the cybercrime as a service value chain, the cyber infrastructure itself also accommodates key resources which support these cybercrime as a service activities. We have to make an important distinction between using cryptocurrencies for payment, which is completely legal if no criminal profits are involved, and bulletproof hosters and criminal service providers such as mixing services. First, payment infrastructure. The use of cryptocurrencies facilitates a decentralized payment infrastructure. It can support new forms of cybercrime, but can also help conceal criminal transactions. A very profitable feature of the cybercrime as a service business model. With virtual currencies, payments can happen pseudo-anonymously and internationally, often without the involvement of a regulated financial institution. But it can also create challenges regarding traceability. That is, the pseudonymity can be broken by follow-the-money efforts, but can also turn into anonymity with the use of so-called mixing services. These mixing services are online commodities to obstruct exactly these follow-the-money efforts. Once they receive your cryptocurrency, these are mixed with other cryptocurrencies to break any transactional link with earlier criminal activities. Another example of service providers within the cybercrime ecosystem are bulletproof hosters. These bulletproof hoster providers protect customers from law enforcement agencies. These services are mostly used to host illegal content, phishing websites and DDoS service, and often accept anonymous means of payment like cryptocurrencies. Bulletproof hosting therefore is an important ingredient in many criminal activities. Thus, besides the existence of commodities supporting the cybercrime as a service model, there are also important cyber infrastructure features that support this. Outsourcing cybercrime introduces dependencies to the criminal value chain. Cybercriminals need a variety of products and services to set up their attacks, and therefore other actors to fulfill necessary components. For example, no malware infection can happen without the malicious software itself, and a phishing attack needs a proper phishing website. We define deviant dependencies as dependencies between two actors caused by the use of resources that cannot easily be interchanged. For example, if there are only a few suppliers offering phishing kits, the dependency of the phisher is deviant. But hosting a phishing website would not be considered deviant, since there are many hosting providers to choose from and it is easy to switch to a different hoster. Insights into these deviant and non-deviant dependencies are essential to law enforcement agencies for designing effective interventions. Pointing interventions to these deviant dependencies will disrupt the criminal value chain and exploit vulnerabilities within the criminal business model. And compared to traditional and physical forms of crime, we can measure these dependencies. Products and services traded in the underground economy are often web-based and thus visible. Domain names are listed and websites are hosted on public IP addresses. These properties allow for external measurements on resource usage and do not require specific police operations. However, this possibility does not mean that it's easy to retrieve this data, as we will discuss in the next video.